The past came to life on St. Michael's campus last week when a group of Revolutionary War reenactors set up camp to help the college community time travel to 250 years ago. Assistant Professor of History, Alexandra Garrett, was responsible for bringing the reenactors to campus.
We're learning about the American Revolution, and so this timing is perfect because I wanted my students to come outside of the classroom and come outside of the textbook and actually learn about how early Americans would have lived their life during the 1700s, right? So this is a nonprofit group that researches and tries to reenact colonial Americans who would have been living in an army camp as a part of the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War.
This plus 2 more people is your home.
We represent Benjamin Whitcomb's Independent Corps of Rangers. Whitcomb's Rangers was an actual military unit during the American Revolutionary War, and they were all over New England, up into Canada.
What do I do with my free time?
It was cool seeing it in person versus like on a whiteboard or, you know, a slideshow.
You kind of get to see like that slice of life of people actually living the history and not just like reading it through a textbook.
I think it's really cool. That's yours? It's a lot of history at once, and you can actually visualize it and see it and like be here.
Everything's reused and repurposed. Nothing gets thrown away.
1, 2.
Learning how a musket functions was pretty cool. Learning about all the different spices and ways they kept them back then when they didn't have, you know, containers with lids that you could just put on.
The seeds, and this is used for birth control.
I have learned that early Americanists did actually bathe themselves more than most people think, but they wear the caps, especially the women wear the caps on the head because it's they don't bathe their hair all the time or wash their hair all the time. So the cap actually kind of keeps their hair in place in between washes. I also learned that if you were a younger woman back in early America, you'd have a bigger, frillier cap as a flirtatious device to gentlemen callers who might pass your way. Whereas if you're an older woman, your cap that you'd wear would be a little bit more demure, a little bit more subdued, right? Because if you're married, you don't need to be flirting with your cap like that anymore.
The women's clothing in particular is really kind of fun to learn how to put together. And it's all laced up in front and laced up in the back. And the reason why things are laced like this is because women, throughout the course of their adult life, are expanding and contracting every 2 years or so, having children. It would not have been unusual for a woman of the time to have 10 or more children.
They're all volunteers, and they make their own clothes, they make their own knives, they cook their own food. They do everything like the 1800s, and to me that was really cool. It was truly something that I don't think I'll forget. It was something that, seeing the way these people live their life and then thinking about how I live my life, it was very interesting. Very interesting. It spurred a lot of thought in my head.
It's sort of what I always hope students will take away when they come to visit this, that we were people in the 18th century, that we lived and loved and laughed the same way that everybody does today. It wasn't just about the men with the powdered wigs, and it's not about the battles. It's about the people that were making their homes in the wilderness and raising their families and trying to build a life.
And I just want to show my students that early American history is in the past, but we can make it come alive today. And there's no better way, I think, to show how history included real people than to have real people try to act like historical people.